سبحان الله وبحمده سبحان الله العظيم استغفر الله العظيم من كل ذنب وخطيئة. الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم افتح علينا وحبب علينا وفي كسائنا وانفعنا اللهم بنا وبالحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا من فضلك وبك برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. اللهم لا سهل الا ما جعلته سهلا وانت بالحلم والقدير تجعل به الذي تكون سهلا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Indeed, we are gathered here today on this night to start a journey towards the noble Quran al-Kareem. And inshallah, he does give us 40 to 45 minutes, no more than that. And inshallah, we pray that it will be beneficial for all of those who are in attendance and those who are viewing over the internet. And indeed, it is something which is greatly appreciated, that one of the most virtuous actions a person can do is to journey to seek knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are many great hadith sharif in relation to this about the virtues of seeking sacred knowledge. And our intention in seeking knowledge is not to show off in front of people, but to make it a means for us to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to gain nearness of Him, to Him, and to gain more knowledge and understanding so that we respect our adab and our mannerisms towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are in a stage in which He subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with us, and we in turn are pleased with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for us it is to obtain the riba of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course it is not so it is very important that we address these issues before we start out, and that is because of our intention. And our intention in this dars and these 3 seminars which we will be doing in relation to this is for us to develop our relationship with the Quran al-Kareem. As we live in a time in which people make many claims, and one of the claims which is made is that people say that we love Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But in order for us to test this love, the quality of this love, we need to see how is our action and how are our pursuits within the dunya and within our free time and our leisure and so on and so forth. To see, are we doing those actions which are beloved to Him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or are we doing those things which will displease Him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? And as we learn that on the Hujjatul Bida, He alayhi salatu wa salam said that I leave you 2 things, Kitabullah wa Sunnati, or Kitabullah wa Fitrati. So He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam left us the book of Allah, and the Quran al-Kareem. So we need to see where we are in our relationship with the Quran. And is it a relationship that is it fruitful, or is it a relationship in which we are found wanting, we are shy before Him subhanahu wa ta'ala? And alhamdulillah, we will mention some about the virtues relating some hadiths in relation to this. And in order to start, one of the ones, subhanAllah, from a few days ago as well, and this is very beautiful. It's an encouragement for all of us, and myself for first and foremost, and the brothers who have attended and those who are watching. And that is the portion of the hadith Imam al-Nawawi has collected in the Arba'in, on the authority of Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, and on the authority of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, that he said that he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, and the last portion of the hadith, وَمَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا يَلْتَمِسُ فِيهِ عِلْمًا سَهَّلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ بِهِ طَرِيقًا إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. That whosoever follows a path or seeks a path in order to seek sacred knowledge of the deen, and then the reward of this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make his path to paradise easy. So for him it will be an easy path to reach Al-Jannah. So we need to see that, do we want this for ourselves? That do we want, shall we say, every Saturday we devote 1 hour of our time for the sake of Allah to journey towards Him, that He will facilitate these for us, and we will be counted amongst His glad tidings from Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. And it gets even better and it goes on. And here alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, وَمَا اجْتَمَعَ قَوْمٌ فِي بَيْتٍ مِّن بُيُوتِ اللَّهِ يَتْلُونَ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَيَتَدَارَسُونَهُ بَيْنَهُمْ إِلَّا نَزَلَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّكِينَةُ وَغَشِيَتْهُمُ الرَّحْمَةُ وَحَفَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَذَكَرَهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِندَهُ. Subhanallah. That he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that people they gather together for no other purpose in the houses, from the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and some of the scholars say by extension in their own houses or in centers and so on and so forth, solely for the purpose of what? Of reciting the book of Allah, the Quran al-Kareem, and studying it. وَيَتَدَارَسُونَهُ, so studying the Quran, i.e. learning how to read the Quran and the adab of the Quran and this. And what do they get? Except for them, there is revealed upon them sakina, tranquility is one of the English meanings of this word, and meaning peace comes down to them, and mercy in relative sense. So the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is surrounding you. That's the second blessing. And the third is that the angels are surrounding them. So we are sitting here at the moment, and we cannot see ourselves, but there are angels covering this whole space. One of our sheikhs mentioned when we were joining with him that one of the ulama of Damascus, he delivered a dars, and he came on the time of the dars, and he sat down and he delivered the dars. And some of the observers, when the dars was over, they said, Sayyidi, can we ask you that you sat there on your own and there was no one there, but you still delivered the lesson? What is the reason behind the wisdom in this? And he said, my son, that although there were no people present, but the malaika were there, so we delivered the lesson to them. So alhamdulillah, for us, it is a great encouragement that wherever we seek for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that not only is it us, but also the angels are there with us as well at the same time. And the ultimate blessing of this is وَذَكَرَهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِندَهُ, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make mention of them amongst those who are present with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what more of a blessing is there in this? That when a person comes to read the Quran and to learn the virtues of the Quran and to study it, this is the honor that he receives. And this is him spending 10, 15, 20, it does not matter about the length of time, but that this is the purpose for which he sat. This is the glad tidings that we receive. There are 4 honors which the person receives from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what more can we want than to be mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That He subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention of us. There is no greater honor than this, that we have extremely bad attitude towards Allah. We are ungrateful. Some of us, we are neglectful in our duties, so on and so forth. Regardless of how we are, whatever our state is, without picking on any individual or passing judgment, regardless of how we are, and we know how we are ourselves, regardless of that, the karam and the rahmah and the mercy and the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such that He subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention of us. And if this is for us not sufficient and encouragement to turn back and to develop a relationship with the Quran, then we need to then assess where we are and then to go further and to see is it something better for us than this to do, or is it something that we should now devote our time to. And now moving forward and mentioning from the collection, also referring to the collection of one of the great ulama of Damascus, and next time we mention people with biography, Hazrat Allama Sheikh Yusuf Nabhani radiallahu ta'ala, and was one of the foremost scholars of the Arab world. And one of our teachers, he said, he mentioned, and one of the famous Sheikh of his time, he mentioned that in order for a person to be testified to be a Sunni, then you need to be one who accepts and who follows the teachings of this great scholar. And the first hadith al-Sharif, which we will mention here, is on the authority of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu, and Nabi sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam called, that on the authority of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the professor of the two rights, he said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. And in another narration from the Jami Tirmidhi, that it is قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خيركم أو أفضلكم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. So the best of you, the best of the Muslims, the most virtuous, and أو أفضلكم, the most virtuous of the Muslims is who? The one who learns to read the Quran. This is the best category of people. And then after that, وعلم and to teach it. But for us, we need to focus on the first category, and that is to be of those that will learn to read the Quran. And there is a big difference between a person reading the Quran, but then a person learning and reading the Quran. Because the two cannot be equated, as we're going to see later on. And for us, it is important that firstly here that the acquisition of knowledge, as we mentioned in the first Hadith al-Sharif that we narrated, that when you're learning the Quran, you are acquiring knowledge. So you are getting those bounty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will facilitate an easy way for you to enter Jannah, that you will be have sakina descend down upon you. You will be enveloped by the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The malaika will be observing you, they will be sitting with you, they will be watching you, and they will be hearing and listening to every word of the Quran that you recite. And then, on top of that, to use a phrase, He subhanahu wa ta'ala will be making mention of you. That this is my servant, from amongst my servants, that who has now devoted his time to the book that I sent to my beloved sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And indeed, that action will please Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to see one of his followers, one of his brothers, from his ummah, devoting his time to that which he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam left to us. And so the acquisition of knowledge is very important here. And then next time we will refer as Allama Jazari in al-Jazariya, he also mentioned the point that in order for us to do justice and to fulfill the rights of the Quran, we must learn how to recite the Quran. Because reciting the Quran as ever as we wish, that in itself is a sin. And the Hadith al-Sharif that he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and we mentioned this later, that he said that many people, they read the Quran, but the Quran rejects them. And the Sahaba, they were amazed, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, how is this? And alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, that they recite the Quran, but they do not pay attention to how it is recited. We need to see, do we want to be of the category that our recitation is accepted, that our recitation is given back to us and said, no, please come back once you have improved it. And more importantly, in this, the validity of our salat also depends upon us knowing how to read the Quran. And this is very, very important, and the scholars they should be devoting more time to this than getting embroiled into other issues which are of less significance compared to this. If a person's prayer is invalid, if a person's prayer is deficient, then what is more important than this? As we know, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that the first question on the day judgment will be in relation to the salat, our prayer. So the validity of our prayer also depends upon our proficiency in the Quran al-Kareem. And then going forward, we need to mention here that for us, when we go after this dance, we need to see which category do we want to be. Do we want to be of those who Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said were the best, or do we want to be of those that who the Quran al-Kareem rejects and says that your recitation is not accepted? And this for us should be very, very important now. And I think it is a very, very good time to mention the next Hadith Sharif. And this is good news, glad tidings for everyone, myself included, and everyone that who embarks on the journey of improving his recitation of the Quran. And that is on the authority of Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال in this generation مثل الذي يقرأ القرآن وهو حافظ له مع السفرة الكرام البررة ومثل الذي يقرأ القرآن وهو يتعاهده وهو عليه شديد فله أجران. And the other narration الذي يقرأ القرآن وهو ماهر به مع السفرة الكرام البررة والذي يقرأه قال هاشم وهو شديد عليه قال شعبة وهو عليه شاق فله أجران. So in the first narration that Sayyida Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala anha, he said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that a person who recites the Quran al-Kareem and masters it by heart, he will be with the noble righteous scribes in Jannah. He will be amongst the angelic beings within heaven. And then a person who exerts himself to learn the Quran by heart and to recite it, to learn the Quran and to read it will be very difficult for him. There is double reward. It's amazing that a person who is learning the Quran, for him is double. And this is an amazing encouragement. And the other narration is that in the general narration we have the kind of Ibn wa Hashim and Qadr coming down like this, and then the narration is that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, the one who recites the Quran al-Kareem and is proficient in it, so he is able to read with ease, he will be with the noble and blessed angels. So we should people say that we need knowledge, but we should have knowledge for Jannah, and this is praiseworthy as well. So we should try to be amongst those, and then the one who recites the Quran, and then Sayyidina Hashim he says, and if it's hard for him, and the wish to add it, and if it is difficult for him, then he gets full rewards. And for us here, we see how merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is upon us, and how much glad tidings they are that the person who, when they're reading the Quran and facing difficulty, for instance, sometimes they're not able to pronounce some of the letters properly, or they're not able to get the correct talaffuz, or some of the words they're very difficult for them and they have to read it again and again. Every time they do it, double reward. And subhanAllah, it's amazing that even by, uh, by, by being a person that will embark on the journey um, to improve his relationship with the Quran al-Kareem, every step of the way you are given so much other, so much reward, and so many doors are open to you that it is something which cannot be uh, equated to in terms. And inshallah, we will carry on and just mention one more hadith sharif and we will conclude there because we don't want to be overburdensome as well. And that is عن ابي موسى الاشعري رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مثل المؤمنين الذي يقرأ القرآن ومثل ريحها طيب وطعمها طيب ومثل المؤمن الذي لا يقرأ القرآن مثل ثمرة لا ريح لها وطعمها طيب ومثل المنافق الذي يقرأ القرآن مثل به حالة ريحها طيب وطعمها مر ومثل المنافق الذي لا يقرأ القرآن كمثل الخنظلة ليس لها ريح وطعمها مر. Very powerful hadith sharif, and this also shows you the eloquence of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. One of the miracles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon him in his speech, that he would speak to people in such a way and give them such examples that they will be able to understand according to their level the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is conveying. And here the example is given that Sayyidina Musa al-Ashari says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam reported him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying that a believer who recites the Quran, his example is like the citron fruit, like orange and something like this, and whose fragrance is sweet and whose taste is sweet. So he's sweet to behold and sweet to receive. And a believer who does not recite the Quran, he is like a date that has no fragrance. So amongst the believers, there is a category in terms of superiority and in terms of the beauty of the Islam and the beauty of the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how fragrant it is. It is based upon the quality of the Quran. And like how we have a dry date that has or a date that has no fragrance but they have sweet taste. So we need to see which category do we want to be in. And again, this is for us to assess and then to see where we want to go. And then He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said the hypocrite who recites the Quran is like he doesn't whose fragrance is sweet but whose taste is bitter. And a hypocrite who does not recite the Quran is like the counterfeit which has no fragrance and has a bitter taste. So we need to see where we are, and this is very, very, very important for us to see that spiritually when we don't read the Quran, and again this is something which I'm sure we won't experience, and that is that when we read the Quran we feel such a beautiful state, and we feel such a nice leather, such a nice taste when we're reciting the Quran. And then sometimes when we miss our recitation of the Quran, so say it would be a few days or a few weeks and then we read the Quran, and it all comes back to us. And then we see that what we had written is out. So this for us, it is extremely important to see how much we are with the Quran, and then also what sort of taste we get from the Quran. And the taste which we receive is in relation to our perseverance with the Quran al-Kareem. And this also tells us of the belief of the Muslims and of the believers, the mu'min, the people of Iman and the people of Nifaq. And finally, we will end with the following hadith sharif. And this is also highlights, unfortunately, some of the current state of our community, i.e. of the Muslims, on a local, national, and international level. سيدنا عمر رضي الله تعالى عنه said أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن الله يرفع بهذا الكتاب أقواما ويدع به آخرين. النبي سيدنا عمر رضي الله تعالى عنه said النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said that verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala erases or degrades, denigrates people in relation to this book. We have that in relation to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is for us very, very, very important to see where we are. That are we of those that who are being debased by the Quran and Kareem, who are we of those who are being honored by the Quran? And this comes back to our reading and our relationship with the Quran and Kareem. And this is indeed a warning for all of us to see that is the Quran and Kareem, is it happy with us, is it pleased with us, or is the Quran and Kareem upset with us? And inshallah, in the next session we will look at a few more hadith sharif, which basically makes mention of this. And sorry, in my translation, I missed out of it. I think report that the meaning of this hadith is that indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises some believers and lowers others. So meaning raise some and then lowers others by virtue of the book of Allah. So we need to see where we are. Are we of those that were raised by the book of Allah, or are we those that were lowered by the book of Allah? I remember there was a famous poet from Pakistan who made mention of this, and in his poetry he said that the day we left the Quran and Kareem and we severed our relationship with the Quran, that is the day that we saw that the door of disgrace and of hardship was opened up to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And indeed it is important that we see that people, when for them the Quran it's a formality, as we're going to see in the next few hadiths, that it is something that they basically they will read either when a calamity befalls them, or they will read when they have a pressing need, but other than that they have no importance or anything. And another indication is to see what condition our copies of the Quran are at home. Are they those that they collected dust, or are they those that we use? And one of the scholars he said that if you want to assess the spiritual quality of the community, he said that you go into the masajid and you see how the Quran has been arranged in the masjid. If it is piled up one over the other, or if it is left like this and like that, and so on and so forth, or something like this, they know there is something missing in the other with the Quran, or that if it is arranged well and everything, they know that the other with the Quran it is of a high standing. And just to finish, inshallah, and also we will inshallah carry on in the next session, inshallah, hopefully in 3 weeks' time. And that is that we need to see in what state do we want to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we go and when we leave this gathering and tonight before we go to sleep, we need to see that what state do we want to be in when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is very important, and from this we will finish the last hadith, so I think this is a good isn't it? That is, أبي أمامة قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم الرجال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أبو أمامة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اقرأوا القرآن فإنه يأتي يوم القيامة شافعا لأصحابه. This is the first portion of the hadith that Sayyid Abu Umama radiallahu ta'ala he said that I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say that recite the Quran, for on the day of judgment the Quran will come as an intercessor for the one that will recite it, for his companion. So we need to see that we want to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment, and that we want to find the Quran to be there with us and to intercede for us in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then if we want, then we need to then honor ourselves by honoring the Quran. And then we need to spend more time with the Quran. And here the scholars say that mere recital of the Quran is not enough. That to say that I read the Quran and everything, but no, learn to read the Quran, and then to recite it, and then to learn the adab of the Quran as well, and then finally to put into practice the invention of the Quran al-Kareem. Inshallah, through this we will see that our state will change, and we will be a people that will not only be a benefit to ourselves, but we will be able to benefit the people around us. And this, you will see that when we read the Quran, that everything will take delight in us reciting the Quran, and we will see much happiness in our family, in our children, in our business, in whatever we do. We will see so much barakah in all of that, mainly by virtue of what? By us improving our relationship with the Quran and and it is greatly needed in this current time that we live in, that especially for people bestowed with knowledge, i.e. one of the foremost requisites of a scholar, and not to say that I'm not a scholar at all, a student of knowledge, but we aspire to be a student of knowledge, and that is that the first thing is they have to know how to read the Quran. It's important. And as one of the great awliya, Mawlana Shaykh Nazim, rahmatullah alayhi, he famously said that all knowledge is contained in Hamza and Alif. He said it's contained between the two. Hamza and Alif. Or in one he said it's Hamza and Ayn. Alif and Ayn. Hamza and Ayn. He said it's contained between the two. And this is an indication back to the Quran al-Kareem, to know the difference between a Hamza and a Ayn. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be of those who reap benefits from the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be of those that on the day of judgment that we see the Quran al-Kareem as our companion, and that we make the Quran our companion in this life and hereafter. And just to finish it, that one of the greatest gifts and the thing we offer to our parents, whether they are still alive or whether they have passed on to the next life, and that is to read the Quran and treat people of the Quran at once. I was reading one of the awliya was traveling with his sons, and they were talking, and he said, "My son, for me it is sufficient that as a gift that you act upon that which I have taught you, and for you to do that will be the best of all things. And what better than to be a person who learns and who reads the Quran, because for that, inshallah, we're going to see next time the honor that a person's parents will get on a day of judgment. When we read that hadith, and when people become aware of that hadith of Sharif, I'm sure they will then be more determined in the pursuit of the Quran al-Karim. The honor that a person claims to have on the day and the high maqam that they will get in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, this is something hopefully we will cover next time. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم سيدنا مولانا سبحان ربك رب العزة الفاتحة. لا